What's going on, everyone? What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Purple Room by Tribaja, where we create a space for real talk, real growth, and real strategy for professionals of color and underrepresented tech talent and beyond. I'm your host, Armand Cheeks, founder of Signal Solution Marketing Consulting Services and Diversitech Techfluencer. And I'm excited to welcome you back for this powerful series. Each episode, we invite top tier subject matter experts to lead high impact workshops that help you level up your skills, mindset, and career trajectory. Today's topic is especially important for you, for those of you that are navigating change or looking to pivot into a new role or industry. Our guest today is Pavielle Goldman. Pavielle is a seasoned marketing strategist and brand storyteller with a track record of shaping compelling narratives for industry leaders and cultural disruptors alike. She has held pivotal marketing roles at Allstate, DoorDash, and creative startups like Artsy. Pavielle has guided dozens of global product launches and built brand equity at scale. Now, at the helm of Goldman Guild Consulting, Pavielle advises corporations, entrepreneurs, and mission driven organizations on how to position themselves with clarity and confidence in crowded markets. Her consultancy blends corporate rigor with creative intuition, offering bespoke strategies that help clients grow with intention. Now, we're really blessed to have Pavielle here with us today because she's taken everything that she knows about launching products and she's now applying that to those same go-to-market strategies to help people launch their next career move. Now, her workshop is going to be titled A Go-to-Market Strategy for Your Career Pivot. And trust me, you're going to want to take notes, so make sure you get your pens and papers and everything out. If you want to use OneNote, whatever you have to use, just make sure you're taking notes for today because it can help you in the future or it can help you right now. So without further delay, I'm going to invite our guest up to the stage, Pavielle Goldman.
Thank you so much for that really, really warm and gracious welcome, Armand. I'm so happy to be here and sharing this space and time with the Tribaja audience. And I'm excited to get into this conversation. Pivoting is
Yeah, I'm
so
excited to have you.
important and a necessary skill that we should all be working on all the time.
It is. And honestly, we're in a space and time where everyone in some way, shape, or form is pivoting. The job market has been the last couple of having someone with your expertise in the corporate world that's able to these concepts to help people navigate these next career moves is going to be very helpful. And I know people may be thinking that they may have seen the last one. They were like, "Didn't you speak to a product marketer already?" Like, hey, listen, us truthfully, I like to say that when it comes to your career in your career. So I think what you're bringing today is going to be very helpful to the audience. And I'm going to turn it over to you. So the stage is all you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to take a moment and just share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Armand said, my name is Pavielle Goldman, and I am the founder of and the principal consultant at Goldman Guild Consulting. I help businesses of all sizes refine their messaging to reach their target audience. But before I started my consultancy, I worked for companies that we all know, and some of us love them, like Allstate and DoorDash. And I held a variety of roles within those companies, ranging from brand marketing manager, digital marketing manager, ad manager, and most robustly, product marketing manager and leader. My career has been built on the ability to pivot. I entered corporate America through the Allstate Leadership Development Program. It was 3 years, and I held three totally different roles. And that really laid the foundation for my ability to pivot. But enough about me. Let's get into what we're going to cover tonight. So, tonight we're going to explore the different types of pivoters, and hopefully you can see yourself in someone, in one of the examples that we talk about. Then we're going to transition into how you build a winning go-to-market strategy for your own career pivot. And my favorite part, getting into the questions and answers. So, like Armand said, please be taking notes and come ready with some questions. Um, Drop them in the chat as we go along if you think you'll forget them. And then finally, we'll wrap this thing on up. So, let's get into it. Let's start with talking about Miss Ava DuVernay. We know her for her work in film and television for the past decade or so, right? But did you know that for 14 years, she worked in marketing and PR? Then she pivoted into opening her own firm. That firm focused on film and television, which inspired her at 32 years old to pick up a camera for the first time. And she started to direct short films. That's why I call her the inspired pivoter. This is someone who picks up breadcrumbs along the different phases of their careers, and their pivot isn't as aggressive, it's slow. It takes a while for them to land. And we may not even call it landing because a career is going to evolve over time throughout our lives, right? Let's move on to talking about the calculated pivoter. A great example of the calculated pivoter is Miss Martha Stewart. I don't know if y'all have seen the latest documentary about Martha Stewart, but it highlights how she started out on Wall Street and was really successful in that space. Then she started a family and decided to stay home with her kids for a bit. She didn't really like that as much as they were hoping, so she opened a catering business and leveraged her contacts from Wall Street to really put on lavish, extraordinary catered events. That blew up and evolved into the brand that she became famous for. And she had cooking shows and cookbooks and cookware lines in Walmart. Then she went to jail, okay? And she even was able to pivot her jail experience into becoming a cultural icon. She was even more famous as a jailbird than she was for cooking and all of the lavish catering events she did. And then, even in her 80s, Martha Stewart continues to pivot, forming relationships across cultural bounds with Snoop Dogg and folks in the rap industry, and even like covered Sports Illustrated in the swimsuit edition at 81 years old. Like, what an icon. But she didn't do all of these things frivolously. One thing we know about Martha Stewart is that she is a highly calculated woman, and each of her career pivots has also been incredibly calculated. Now, we know Michael Jordan as the GOAT of the NBA, winning 6 rings with the Chicago Bulls. I'm in Chicago, from Chicago, so shout out to the Bulls and everything Chi-Town. We know Michael Jordan as the GOAT, for winning 6 rings. But do we remember that little spurt of time that he played baseball? So he won 3 rings with the Bulls, then pivoted into baseball. Then he pivoted back into basketball and won 3 more rings with the Bulls. I label him the hobbyist. And we'll talk about the hobbyist a little bit more later, but this is a person who attempts to turn a passion or something that they really enjoy into a new career path. And then they get into it and it's not really feeling that good. And so they're like, you know what? I just want to go back home. I want to go back to doing what I know how to do really, really, really well. That's why we call Michael Jordan the hobbyist. Now, John David Washington, we know him as one, Denzel Washington's son, and two, an emerging actor who is getting some really strong acclaim. But did we realize that before he started acting, he was a football player? And I'm not talking like just college or flag football. He was in the NFL. He was a professional football player before he started acting. I label John David Washington the hard pivoter. He did a 180, like football to the stage. Make it make sense. And we will. All four of these people, the examples we gave, Ava DuVernay, Martha Stewart, Michael Jordan, and John David Washington, they all pivoted very differently, but they have one thing in common. They knew their value and brought it with them into their new careers. So let's talk next about how they were able to do that. I've identified and leveraged research that substantiate 6 steps for a successful pivot. So let's get into it. And it's not a marketing presentation without a quick little chart. So these are the 6 areas. Feel free to take a screenshot. Number 1, we're going to identify the problem. Then we're going to beta test it. Then we're going to build it, launch it, iterate and innovate. This is what I love about the tech space. Iteration and innovation are always happening and highly encouraged. And then finally, we're going to report on our findings and our experiences. So let's identify the problem. And when I say identify the problem, I don't mean, oh, I don't like my boss. I'm not getting promoted fast enough. I'm bored. I'm talking about what the core of the problem is. What's the real reason you don't love your current career? For a lot of us, I mean, the money thing is very valid because capitalism, you need it to survive. But it's often deeper than that. A few signs that you want to pay attention to when you're not loving your job or if you're thinking about a pivot is burnout. Do you get easily irritated? Are you exhausted? Do you get sad when you wake up in the morning? Do you get the Sunday scaries every Sunday? Have you lost interest in things that used to excite you, in work that used to excite you? I want you to spend some time really getting to the core of why you want to pivot. And this is going to be really, really, really uncomfortable. But a pro tip that I want to share is to spend some time exploring the most critical feedback that you've received. And you'll probably find some truths in that feedback that you may be running from. Personally, I've received feedback about my work that I didn't realize resonated until after I had made the pivot. And that's why I'm saying it's a pro tip, because I want you to learn from my lag. Not my mistake. It wasn't a mistake, but I was just a little behind the curve on recognizing a pattern. And I also want you to spend some time with your 8-year-old self. They have a lot more insight than they really get credit for. Think about the things you used to do and really enjoy when you were in grade school. Did you really like to build model houses or cars when you were little and now you don't have anything to do with your hands? That may be worth exploring. Let me go back for a second. So once we identify the problem, it's usually pretty easy to get to a potential solution, right? So you hone down on the problem, and as you're like exploring the critical feedback that you've received, as you're talking with your 8-year-old self, something happens, something lights up, a light bulb goes off for you, like, oh, I totally forgot that I really enjoyed doing this thing. And I could figure out how to make a career out of this. And then we move into the second phase of our career pivot where we beta test the situation. So let's take that new career idea for a test drive because it's really, really smart to test out something new while maintaining your current employment. It's not easy, but it often pays dividends, both literally and figuratively, right? So often people think that they want to turn their passion into profit and learn later, like Michael Jordan, that they would prefer to keep it as a hobby. That's why we beta test. And here are a few ways to do that. So, one, you can job shadow someone that you connected with in the space. Like, spend a day with them, listen in on a call with them, or just sit down and have a conversation. Coffee chats, lunches are great ways to observe and learn about the work that you're curious about. Another way that you can beta test a new career opportunity is to find a contract job or a side gig doing the work. That is what pays those dividends I mentioned. Um, Doing something that takes some of your time but not encompassing your entire career is a great way to test drive something that you're curious about, and maybe even volunteer using this new skill set or an expanded skill set that you would like to pivot into, and bonus points if it's within your current company. And I say bonus points because that makes your pivot a lot easier. So after we have beta tested it, we build it. So that's when you start looking for jobs. Well, let me take a step back. We beta tested, we proved that we do want to have this new career that we've chosen. And then that's when we build it. We start applying for jobs. We start building those connections, like with real deep intention. We identify the companies, the locations. And it's really important to note that as you are building and into this pivot space, that the work that you're doing to build your new career is often very subtle, but it's about the intentional evolution of your work. As long as you're taking incremental action into this new space that you have identified for the next iteration of your career, it counts. 1% better is a saying that people like to use, and I personally live by it. Get 1% better. 1% of effort is better than no effort at all, right? And a great way to build this new career that you have found, especially if you are shadowing or volunteering through the current company that you work with, is all about positioning. It's what makes all the difference. So, how do you position yourself well for this career pivot? You want to be really, really clear with everyone that crosses your path what your intentions are for your next step. You want to be clear with your leadership, with your colleagues, clear in ERG groups, in your extracurricular activities. You want to be planting seeds consistently. Okay? That gets us to the second step you want to take in positioning yourself for your career pivot, and that is consistency. Show up. Show up with contributions that align with the work that you want to do in the future. You want to continuously align with people who are doing that work in places where the work is happening, at times when the work is happening. You want to be building your knowledge outside of those spaces as well. And you want to do that consistently. And number three, you want to be building relationships in the space. So you'll be top of mind when new opportunities come up. It's always best to be found already. It makes the transition a whole lot smoother, and it allows for a really seamless marketing campaign. That gets us to launching. You have now landed the job in your new career that you have been desiring. You've been planting those seeds. You've been consistent about telling people what you want. You got that job. And now what do? You have to communicate this new position as broadly and, again, consistently as possible. This is going to be a brand reset for you and everyone in your network. People are going to remember you for, depending on how long you've been in your career, they could remember you for the work that you had been doing for years. I have had my agency for about 2 years now, and I'm still updating contacts in my network about the fact that I am an independent consultant. I have this product marketing skill set and love using it. My focus currently is actually um, messaging strategy. I've honed in on the part of product marketing that I love the most, and I'm building a business around that. And a part of the reason why I'm talking to you today is a part of my launch strat. I'm launching loudly, presenting this workshop on my LinkedIn is loud announcement. Hey, Pavielle works for herself now, and she is really focused on messaging strategy and communications. So when you are launching loudly, you really want to be confident, but it will take some time for not just folks in your network, but also for you. This is something brand new, and you will feel a little wobbly, a little shaky on your legs when you're transitioning, especially if it's a big transition, a big pivot for you. If you're going from like David Washington, John David Washington, from football to acting, it's going to take you a while to feel comfortable on the stage, right? So be gracious with yourself, but also put in the reps. Put in the reps of telling people, this is what I do. Work on your elevator pitch. Even like having a note card or something in your notes app on your phone is really, really helpful. So when you go to networking events, or if you're going to a happy hour, letting people, being able to have a slight crutch and let people know, this is what I do now. This is the work I used to do. Building that story, building the bridge between your old career and your new career is going to be really important, and it's going to be really difficult. But exposure therapy is helpful. Next, step number 6. Is this? Yes. I think it's number 6. Step number 5 is step number 5. Step number 5 is iterate and innovate. So you got your dream job and it's not so dreamy. That's okay. That's okay. Things won't be like amazing immediately because, like I said, you won't be an expert in this space. You'll be maybe not starting from the bottom, but you'll be starting out with less experience than you had in your previous role because this work is all new. A few ways to get through that are to figure out what transferable skills can become superpowers in your new career space. Also, you can explore niching down like I'm doing. So I started out, I wanted to support messaging strategy. I was honed in on copywriting because I really enjoy writing. I went to school for English literature and I write personally for myself. So I was like, I'm going to be a copywriter. But as I got into the work, that was like the first year of building my consultancy. In the second year, which is where I am now, I'm recognizing that I want to niche down even more within this messaging space to help with messaging strategy. Because copywriting is fun for me, for my personal experience and for my journal, you know. Um, but when in a business setting, I really enjoy strategy, and so I'm niching down into a messaging strategy space. And if you're not feeling so great about the pivot that you've made, I want you to explore parts of that work that really feel aligned for you and parts of the work that don't feel as aligned, and consider niching down into the most aligned spaces. And third, look for examples to elevate the current experience or processes. Let me explain this further. So, if you're on a team and you see an opportunity to improve how quickly work is done, offer yourself, offer your skill set, offer your ideas with confidence. Be a value add to the team through that channel. And it could help you build the confidence that you need to feel inspired in that work. Okay. So that was step number 5, iterate and innovate. And my slides got a little bit out of order, but number 6, the final step, is to report the findings. Document your journey, either for yourself or for the public. I say try to do both. But for yourself, documenting the findings for yourself gives you a reference point for the next pivot, because we're always pivoting, y'all. The pivot don't stop. So I really want you to document the journey so that you can look back in a few years and see where you started, see where you have gone. It's awesome to look at your old writings or old photos, old meeting notes, and be like, oh, wow, you were really smart. Like, that was a great idea. Or, oh my gosh, I forgot that I was manifesting that, you know? And then when you report the findings for the public, it helps to establish your brand in this new space. And people love a hero's journey, a coming of age tale, if you will. And again, building that brand credibility, getting the reps in, share with the public, share your journey. Right now, we are like loving Doechii, right? And a lot of folks, including myself, are digging in the crates of her YouTube channel. And she documented her process of becoming the pop star, the superstar that we are now experiencing. And that is so magical. So once you become this huge, like CMO, CEO, brand, business, engineering mogul, we can look back and be like, wow, it was really cool to be on this journey with them, right? Now, this is not a part of the 6-step process, but it is a really important part of it. And I think that it's important to include this in every single step. You need to pace yourself and also give yourself grace. In Herminia Ibarra's book, Working Identity, Unconventional Strategies for Reinventing Your Career, she shares that the average pivot takes between 3 and 5 years. 3 and 5 years. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of time. But when you are in it, when you are in the depths of that pivot, it feels like forever, right? And so it is important, very important, to pace yourself and give yourself grace throughout this process. While you're following the breadcrumbs of what you might want to do, pace yourself, give yourself grace, and inspiration will come from that. As you're beta testing, give yourself grace. Make one new connection. Go to one networking event. As you are building, volunteer first. After you've built some muscle in the volunteer space, then start going after like a contract gig or a paid opportunity. When you're launching, I'm not saying go down on salary because I want everybody to get a bag, okay? But consider a title adjustment. You may need to go down in title, but keep your same pay range or even take a pay cut if you can manage that financially. And as you're iterating and innovating in this space, especially, give yourself grace. Don't think that you failed. You have not failed. You're picking up evidence and making adjustments, iterating, innovating. As you're reporting and people are giving you feedback about what you're doing, like, oh, you're all over the place. Like, what are you doing? This doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense to them. It's your life. It only has to make sense to you. It only has to feel good to you. Okay? So let me wrap this up. I want to encourage you to pivot as much as you want to, right? I remember when I was in college, or maybe early in my career, there was this statistic going around that said that you're going to have between 4 and 5 different careers in your lifetime. We work for most of our lives, right? Retirement age is technically 65. A lot of people retire later than that. That is a lot of time. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be doing the same thing for 40 plus years. I haven't been doing the same thing for 40 plus years. My average is about 2 to 3. Every 2 to 3 years, I get interested in something else and start exploring other opportunities or how I can expand this or how I can hone in on something else, right? So I want you to give yourself permission to follow the flow of your life, follow your curiosity, okay? And always remember that pivoting is not about a job. It's about becoming more of who you are meant to be and sharing that with the world. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I really, really look forward to your questions and the conversation we are about to have. If you would like to connect with me, please scan this QR code. It will lead you to my link tree where you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Substack, Instagram, TikTok, um, events that I'm hosting. I recently started hosting journaling events local in Chicago to help people write themselves free. And so, if any of that interests you, if anything that I've said tonight interests you, please reach out. I would love to continue the conversation even after tonight. Thank you so, so much.
I'm over here thanking you and saying all these things, and I didn't have my mic on, but it's all right. No, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you were sharing. I know that there are some people in the chat that are already rethinking how they can position themselves, and you gave a lot of value. So I know whether people are watching live or watching the replay, they're getting a lot of value from this. And I want to open up the floor for anyone that's in the room to ask any questions, drop a question in the comments. But we're also going to dive into some Q&A that I have as well. So it's going to be between the audience and myself. I'll start us off. And if there's anyone that's in the room that has a question, feel free to drop it in the comments and we will get to it right away. So the first question that I wanted to touch upon was, you really talked about the importance of, building that personal value proposition, really building brand credibility. What's a mistake that you often see people make when they're trying to define that?
Being overconfident. When we are entering into a new career, especially if we've been in a space for a good amount of time, we want to still be seen as the expert, right? But it is so beautiful to be a beginner. And people sometimes come into a space trying to be the boss, trying to be the expert when they just don't have the experience, they don't have the knowledge to be positioned in that way. And it really puts them at a disadvantage because they don't get the mentorship that they might need. They don't ask the questions that they really should be asking until much later, until they're like in a sticky situation, right? And so I love coming into situations as the new kid on the block because I'm coming in like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like what can I learn?
I love that. I definitely think that's very important. And I guess another point that I wanted to mention was, how can someone really stand out if they're pivoting into a field where they don't really have that direct experience just yet?
I would say that people can stand out in a field that they don't have experience in by being curious and helpful. Being curious and helpful. Curiosity. I don't know if you've heard this before, Armand, but people love talking about themselves, right? So asking someone like, oh my gosh, like I really admire your position within this space. Like I would love to learn how you built your career, how you have built this persona. And that can build a connection that can be really helpful in the future, right? And then also by being helpful, I was able to succeed very quickly in my role, my final role in the leadership development program at Allstate. It was on a marketing team. We were going through big transitions within the corporation, and I stayed late. I would stay late and I would be listening to the director's row, what they were talking about. I would be listening to what the vice presidents were saying when they had their office doors open. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and just happened to, I'll just go fill my water bottle. Let me run to the fridge. And I would be like, oh, I can grab that from the printer for you. I can send that file for you. No worries. And then that made me an invaluable resource for them. It made me come top of mind, like, oh, Pavielle doesn't mind staying late to help with like extra projects. And then I got to do really cool stuff. And I put in the work, put in those reps, right? And then I built that credibility.
I love that. There's this, and I'm probably going to butcher the quote, but it's along the lines of, if you do more than you're paid for, one day you will be paid for those things that you've done. And it's really interesting just getting the opportunity. If anyone's listening, if they are in a large organization, even if they're in a small organization,
Yeah.
be okay with doing more than what you are quote unquote asked to do, because at the end of the day, that's giving you more exposure to people that may be those decision makers. Maybe, and let's be real, everyone pivots. Even people that are in those senior leadership roles pivot. But if you can make a good impression on them, they know that you're someone that they enjoy working with. If they're the team leader or leading another team, whether it be in your organization or a different organization, why wouldn't they call on you? Why wouldn't they want to give you more responsibility because they've seen how you showed up when it wasn't your responsibility to show up? And I hope that resonates with anyone that's listening.
And I want to piggyback on that for a moment. Those people will be the biggest supporters of your pivot as well, because they believe in you, not just the work that you do.
I would. It's so funny that you say that, because that makes me go back to the beginning of your presentation where you. I also want to give you a great job for mentioning, like, for kind of putting an avatar to the different types of career. You see, the marketer, you gotta put the avatar in there, right? So it really made sense, because if you were to look at any of those people that you mentioned, those are people that had a certain level of work ethic. They built relationships. They were known for what they were known for. So when it came time for them to pivot, it was probably easier than most for them to call on their network and call on people to take them seriously in this area that they were pivoting. Like, I've used Michael Jordan as an example.
Mm-hmm.
People know him as one of the greatest basketball players. He were, semi-retired at his prime, but because people thought about his work ethic and, hey, he used to play baseball in high school, if he gave it more time, I'm sure he'd be great. Like, there are people that play their whole life and don't get the opportunity to go to the minor leagues in baseball. The fact that he was able to say, hey, I'm a pro basketball player, I think I could do this, and people took him seriously, let alone in the same time, he got signed to the the Chicago White Sox, which is, that again shows the relationship, shows all of these things that are necessary when it comes to pivoting. Like, no one should feel like they're pivoting alone, because it's not just a solo journey when you're pivoting. That's something I really picked up from your presentation. So I really want to kind of go into your career pivot, because you transition from corporate to entrepreneurship, and obviously, even just kind of, I can see it from how you've crafted this presentation. There are so many things that you've taken from that marketing brain, that marketing background. What personal go-to-market strategy did you kind of implement, and how did you go about creating that path for yourself?
It is really funny that you asked that question, Armand. When I pivoted out of corporate and started my consultancy, I announced it on LinkedIn in a very similar fashion. I was like, this is the go-to-market strategy for my new career. Let me give you some insight on how I got here. And I laid it all out, like, same steps. And if you go back in my LinkedIn post, you will see it up there. And it got like a good amount of engagement, sparked a lot of conversations. I also periodically will post on LinkedIn. Would love to have conversations with you with my network about messaging strategy, about marketing strategy, and give a link to my Calendly. And I've had so many interesting conversations. Some of them have led to partnerships. Some of them have just been reigniting conversations and connections with folks in my network. So that's really how I've done it. Like, told people about it. I also go to networking events. But I announced it on on LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm doing this new thing. I hope you support it. And I hope you found this to be an interesting read.
Wow, that's amazing. So a couple things that resonate with me from that. One, I do feel like when I think about my career, I feel like there probably was a time earlier on where I was very hesitant to share the transition. I feel like everyone maybe have gone through that where they're hesitant
Yeah.
to share the new thing that they're working on, something that they're passionate about, because they're afraid of maybe outside opinions, afraid of whatever it may be. But in today's social media world, it is so important for you to get your story out there and be able to tell the story behind what led you from where you were to where you want to go to where you are. Like, there are so many different points of the story that we as people can get comfortable sharing and comfortable being comfortable being uncomfortable talking
Mm-hmm.
about the story, because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to, and I know you experience this, when it comes to people responding, engaging, or resonating with your story, it's always going to be the people that it needs to be. If it doesn't
Exactly.
resonate with someone, they're not going to reach out.
They're
If it
not for
doesn't,
you.
then they aren't for you. And it's really like, when I think about Tribaja, one of the root words is tribe. Like, that's how you find your tribe. The only way that you can find your tribe is by setting out that call, like sending out the horn. You got to send out the horns to let people know, like, this is what I'm doing. If you
Yes.
could support, please. Like, support could just be having a conversation about it,
Mm-hmm.
and,
It just be a
I
like on
appreciate you
the
sharing.
post, a comment on the post.
It is.
There are so
It
many
is.
ways to support folks these days, and it's really beautiful. Um, and I'm so glad that you said what you said about being uncomfortable sharing the different facets of your pivot. I even had this moment today, um, preparing for this conversation, where I had a little cry. I had a little cry this morning because I was so thankful that the different parts of my life and my work are integrating right when I really need them and want them to. This is something that I've been working on for the past year. Like, how do I talk about the work that I do in my consulting space, along with the work that I do in like writing and journaling events that I'm hosting? And it dawned on me that it's okay to talk about them all in the same space now. And that's
100%.
so freeing.
100%. And that's one of the things that make our story different from anyone else's. There could be 10 people that are also in marketing, but their path to getting to where they are and what helped them build that confidence and all of these variables is
Mhm.
always going to be different. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I kind of want to harp on the storytelling a little bit one more time, because we all know that storytelling is important in is an important role in career pivoting. But how can someone shape their story authentically?
That's the question for me.
Yeah, that's a question. How can someone shape their story authentically? I want to know.
Oh, it's uncomfortable. Like you said, authenticity is really a hot commodity and very rare in this age of AI, which I am a supporter of and a user of. But that real human engagement, that authentic connection hits different.
Mm-hmm.
And getting into it and sharing it boldly is hard. And you have to find a level of vulnerability within yourself and within your network, your friend group, your professional network. Find folks who feel safe to start like planting those seeds, sharing your story. And as you practice sharing your story in safe spaces, right, then you can start to share it a little bit more broadly. It's really about practice. Again, you got to get those reps in.
Yes.
find those find the safe spaces and then start to slowly expand. And then you can shout it from the rooftops, right? Because you have figured out how to position it in a way that is consumable for a broader audience.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And that resonates on a lot of different levels. Just mainly because when I think about it, when I think about just how over the last year and a half, I would say maybe year, like LinkedIn has become one of my more favorite social media
Same.
platforms. One, because people are more genuine. Two, regardless what people may say on Instagram, the real people making money are on LinkedIn. Let's just be like, let's just be real. I'm gonna be real with you, right? But it could be very difficult and challenging for someone that may have gotten laid off or may have been going through, again, may feel like they're going through this career pivot on their own to put that information out there. But I promise you, on the other side of being vulnerable to the audience that you've cultivated on LinkedIn or any of these other safe spaces is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I'll say, this is the perfect segue into the next question, because one of the things that I did over the last year to kind of really help me with my career pivot has been attending networking events, has been attending conferences for Black professionals in tech, people that look like me, that have been on the same grind and journey, but in their own space. So getting to come to these conferences and something like that has been really empowering, because once you're around a space of people that look like you, that have their own journey, and you're having a conversation, you're like, well, we have some synergy in terms of what we've been through to even get to where we are right now at this conference, right? So, when we talk about networking events, if someone were to only have, let's say, 30 seconds at a networking event, or maybe even a LinkedIn message, what part of the go-to-market strategy would you recommend that they really focus on?
Oh, that's an awesome question. It depends on where they are in their process, really. But if I were to pick one generally, I would say, hold on, let me look back at my slide.
Yeah, and while she's looking at that, that's how you know these questions. I didn't prep her. She gave me the slides. I got to see it, and I said, we're gonna make some questions. We're gonna have her thinking on the fly today, and she's doing a great job. So again, thank you.
Okay, so it's between identify the problem and beta test. And let me tell you why. So initially I was going to say just beta test, because that's when you are building your network in the new space. That's when you are sitting down for coffees or job shadowing. But identify the problem puts you in that more vulnerable space that I mentioned earlier, because you are entering the conversation like, hey, I'm curious about this situation. I'm trying to figure something out for myself. And if it's not something that I want to stick to, don't hold it against me.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. I like both of those. I like both of those because, again, as it pertains to a career pivot, you cannot really even justify in yourself, in your heart of hearts, the reason why behind the pivot if you don't identify what the problem is, right? Like
exactly.
to the outside world, Michael Jordan looked absolutely crazy pivoting from basketball after you don't won 3 rings to go to play baseball. But in his heart of hearts, we got to think about the time that he was dealing with, right? He had lost his father. He had all these things about like, this is something that was a real bonding moment. Baseball was a different bonding moment for him than what basketball brought to him. And he felt like if I didn't give this a try, I would regret it for the rest of my life, right? And that's what we can take a lesson from that, because never let a moment go where you feel like, oh, I'm not going to do this or whatever, because whatever reason it may be, like you may end up regretting that if you don't do it. As long as you have a justified reason, like you said, identify that problem, step into it. And then you stepping into it is testing, is the continuous testing process, right? So I love that. And what we're going to do to kind of close this out, because you mentioned AI, you mentioned something like that. So I know that there are some tools and resources that you would recommend. So what are some tools and resources that you would recommend for someone to build a strong career go-to-market plan?
Oh, well, I have to start out by saying I recommend Tribaja.
Hey,
this is not a paid ad. This is not a paid ad, I promise. But since I connected with Tribaja, I have just learned so much from the platform about how you all support folks in exploring career options. And I think it's a super valuable resource. So that's number one, first tool. Number two, your network. So many of us don't even know what our friends do. We're just hanging out, kicking it, getting tacos, margaritas, going to the movies, taking trips, and we don't
spending
know.
the money, not even asking how we making it.
Exactly. Talk to your network, have those real conversations. Everybody isn't comfortable talking about money, but if you have a friend who's in a field, maybe not even in your specific career that you're targeting, but in the field, in the space, they may be able to connect you with someone who is doing the work that you want to do. They may be able to put you onto conferences, to other resources. We have to really use the things that are easily accessible to us. You don't have to figure it out in a vacuum, right? So lean on your network, and it'll help you build deeper connection with your friends and your colleagues, which is something that we all need more of right now, right? Mm-hmm. So those two, the regular AI, I use a lot of ChatGPT. I use it a lot. Not like other people. ChatGPT is not my therapist. I have a real person for that. Mm-hmm. I talk to the lady and she gets paid. But ChatGPT is a very valuable resource. So, for example, I was recently exploring yet another pivot of going to grad school. A thought that I had in college resurfaced. It was initially my plan to get my PhD in multicultural literature. I was going to be an academic, right? And that has come up a few different times, like by happenstance. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's the universe giving me some breadcrumbs. Let me look into it. And I used ChatGPT to see if I could pivot the work that I'm doing into a graduate school program. And I got some really interesting results that I'm exploring.
I love that. And I'll piggyback on that. Because I definitely want to say that in the time that we're in with AI and AI, not only going from generative AI, but more agentic AI, that is really the opportunity for us to utilize that as a thought partner, not to take not to give it not to turn over our thoughts to it, but to use it to help us ideate, to help us answer questions that maybe it would have been way harder for us to find someone that can give an intelligent answer on that. I think that's really one of the powerful things about the internet. And I mean, listen, from some of the things I've been seeing on the internet and what I'm hearing these internet streets, ChatGPT is Black. We're gonna call her Claudette Gabriella Taylor, because some of the answers she gives is just so okay, yeah, we on the same.
Training the model is a real thing.
That's what we have to do. We're not you like everyone. An example, the best example I could give is everyone has a phone, but everyone uses their phone differently. The
Yes.
apps that you have on your phone are, if you were to go scan 10 of your friends, you all have different apps that you use, the different frequency at which you use it. So when it comes down to like AI, think of it as the same way. If you're training it based on how you speak, your tonality, your preferences, what your interests are, it's going to source the internet, these large language models, to present that right back to you. So like that's one of the best things that we can utilize. We can utilize AI for as a resource, and as a thought partner. So yeah, I 100% agree with that. I want to turn it over to you real quick. What happened?
I want to give a final tool.
Please.
Your inner knowing.
Ooh.
We often discount the things that just like come to us. The gut feelings that we get about things. And I want to encourage everyone watching this stream, whether it's live or on a replay, to trust your gut and follow your intuition more. It'll take you to some really magical places.
I love that. I absolutely love that, because if we're gonna go there, we'll go there real quick. As someone that studied electrical engineering, I understand that everything that the computer has done is to replicate the human brain, right?
Yes.
So we think about these artificial neural networks that are on the computers. They are meant to replicate the actual neural networks that we have in our brains. And it is not coincidental that people, based on what your interests are, based on who you are, based on your family, you have different thoughts, different thought patterns, different we'll call them downloads that come to you from the higher source that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense that if you are trusting your intuition and you are in line with that, you will get the things that were meant for you, right? But we can't be in a space where we're denying our intuition, but we're expecting something greater from ourselves to come into our existence. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I think overall this has been just a really valuable talk. I know that everyone that's watching, again, whether they're watching the replay, watching live, they've gotten some value. Someone in the comments said great information. Ms. Gia, great information. She said, thank you so much. I want to give it an opportunity for you to just, if there's any last words you want to share before I close out, I want to turn it over to you real quick.
Sure. I just want to thank Tribaja and thank you, Armand. You've been incredible to work with on this workshop, and such a warm and gracious host. I would also love to share with the audience about my upcoming journaling workshop. It'll be held on the last Saturday of July, and the intention is to help people connect more deeply with themselves and to take a breather, take a moment to center yourself and release and reclaim. Release things that don't belong to you and reclaim what is rightfully yours. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much. This has been such an honor. And I hope to see you in the comments of the posting.
I love that. And so I want to say thank you, Pavielle. This was incredibly valuable. Thank you again for sharing your insights with the Tribaja community here in the Purple Room. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you hopefully we'll see you at Diversitech next year in March. I know that some of the culture leaders are spread all across the United States, from New York to Miami to San Francisco to Dallas. I feel like there might be a Chicago one coming up pretty soon. So we'll definitely make sure that we stay connected that way. And to anyone tuning in, if you love this session, please make sure you do a couple things. Follow Tribaja, follow Pavielle, make sure you stay connected on the internets. One of the most powerful things about doing any type of recorded session is that it lives forever, right? So I think that's a beautiful thing. And you can share it infinitely. So if you're working on a career pivot, drop your biggest takeaway from today in the comments. We'll see you next time in the Purple Room, where we don't just talk about change, we strategize it. So